So good morning, everybody. So I want to pick up on chapter 14 here. Chapter 16, and pick up where we left off. So the last time we met, we were talking about approximate cost of giving up a cash discount. So if someone offers you a discount, you kind of should always take it, right? When you walk into a store and they say, if you pay me cash, I won't charge you tax, right? So that's a good deal. I would guess so, if you can do that. So anyway, this is the approximate equation, right? I showed you the actual equation, and this is the approximate equation right here. I'll go back one. Here's the full equation, right? And if it's a box in blue, it's kind of important. I would know that. All right, so here's a table of cash discounts with various costs, right? 210 is a 2% discount if you pay within 10 days, 1% discount if you pay within 10 days, 3% if you pay within 20, and 4% if you pay within 10. And then you get 60 months, and then you got to pay the balance in 60 months and 70 months. So here's the calculation. You can go through each of these, and you should be able to go through those, and should have no trouble with those. All right, so this tells you which discount you should take if the bank offers you to be able to borrow at 13%, right? So, for instance, let's just look at one. In dealing with supplier A, the firm takes the cash discount because the cost of giving up is 36.5%, right? And then borrows the funds it requires from its bank at 13%, right? So you give it up, and then you borrow at 13%. So with supplier B, the firm would do better to give up the cash discount because the cost of this action is less than the cost of borrowing money from the bank, right? So you're better off giving up the cash discount. So you go through each of these scenarios. Okay, so let's move on. And here's another one about stretching accounts payable. And it's just another example, 210 net 30. And the cost of giving up the cash discount, assuming payment on the last day, was approximately 36.5%. And of course, if the firm were able to stretch its accounts payable to 70 days without damaging its credit rating, the cost of giving up the cash discount would be only 12.2%. So the important point here is stretching accounts payable reduces the implicit cost of giving up a cash discount, right? And here's a personal finance example of that, right? And here's the breakdown of what they should do. So the end result is the cost of financing is here, right? They want to buy a TV or something like that, right? And it's less expensive than nobody should pay cash for the TV. Right? The lower cost of the cash alternative is largely the result of the $150 cash rebate. Okay, accruals are basically on this balance sheet on the right-hand side there. Liabilities, such as rent and what you got to pay for people's salaries and stuff. And a lot of people, they maneuver and like wages, instead of paying you, like I get paid once a month, right? So they save a lot of money. Some companies now only pay, once every 2 weeks, but the weekly paycheck is just about gone, right? They delay payment, and they basically give themselves an interest-free loan from employees. So here's an example of this, right? There's a weekly payroll here, and I think they want to add another week, or let's see, the weekly payroll. If the firm were to extend the pay period, so it has to pay its employees 1 week later throughout an entire year. So if they delay a week's payment, then they save themselves some money, right? So there's a lot of games that I've always played with this stuff. And there's ethical stuffs about, here's the ethical stuff, which is somewhat important, right? I mean, and there's just an example of someone who had to pay a fine for being unethical. I guess the underreported liabilities and that kind of stuff. All right, so there's a term here that's important, right? A short-term self-liquidating loan is an unsecured short-term loan in which the use to which the borrowed money is put provides the mechanism for which the loan is repaid. So basically, you borrow money and you build funds with it, and then you use that money to pay back the loan. These loans are intended merely to carry the firm through seasonal peaks. So, like, let's say Home Depot, during the spring season, the gardening, they borrow money to buy plants, right? And then they take the money, or in the winter, let's say they buy snowblowers or salt, and then they sell that, and then they use that money to pay the loan back. It's a short term, right? Look like a bridge loan. They call them bridge loans sometimes. All right, so the prime rate of interest is simply the lowest rate of interest charged by leading banks, right, to best customers. You'll always hear a quote the prime rate in the news. So the prime rate fluctuates, and it's always, basically, if you got it's like a good credit rating when you go in to get a mortgage. If you have a good FICO score, you will get a better interest rate. All right, so these terms you should know about: a fixed rate loan and a floating rate loan. You've heard these a lot, right? The floating rate loan, sometimes this is a little dangerous. You think you're going to do good, and then, as you know, interest rates have gone up recently. So floating rate loan is a gamble, so to speak, right? But some people take it. If they can't afford their mortgage payment, they'll start with a floating, and then maybe convert to fixed. So here's the simple equation for your interest rate, right? The nominal is rate, right? And here's another term. This is for the discount loan, right? This is a discount loan. Again, these boxes are in blue, so, So here's an example. Here's examples of that. You should just go through these examples, right? All right, so a single payment note is like a commercial paper. It's a short-term, one-time loan made to a borrower who needs funds for a specific purpose. So this is like a bridge loan, right? This is sometimes called commercial paper. These are like companies will loan money to other companies, so the companies don't have to go to the bank. So usually up to like 270 days. I think like 30 days to 270 days. Real short-term loans. So here's an example of this, right? So Gordon, they produce rotary mower blades, and they need a loan for 90 days, right? And it's going to be paid back in 90 days. All right. So here's how he goes through the calculation. And, you should go through this calculation. The total interest cost is $1,849, 7.5% for 90 days at $100,000. So here is the 90-day rate, right? Anyway, so here's the effective annual rate, and you got to compound this for not 4 period, but 4.06 because there's 365 days in a year, right? So the effective annual rate, right, is 7.73%. Even though you're paying 1.85, you don't just multiply it by 4 because there's 365 days in a year. So it's a little higher than 7.5. And here's the other bank. I guess he's comparing banks here, right? He's looking at now this bank and seeing what that rate is, right? So we'll see what that is. And here's the total interest cost. So that effective annual rate is 7.46. So clearly, in this case, the floating rate loan would have been less expensive than the fixed rate because of its generally lower effective annual rate. Right? So this one was 7.46, and this one was 7.73, right? So this is the floating rate loan, and he took this. You should take that one because it's a low interest rate. All right, right there. They're comparing two banks. Okay, so Megan has an example here. So she wants to get a 180-day loan for $30,000, and for some part of a condo, right? And she wants a bridge loan until she can sell her current condo. All right, so here's what the banks offered her. So she got a couple different bank offers, right? And right here is the calculation of what she should do. And it says she should take the variable rate loan, right? Saving about $38 in interest over 180 days. All right, I'll stop there, and we'll do a pickup on part 3. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good one.